Hello and howdy. Welcome to another very special edition of Verse Talks. I'm Artie Hands. Today I'm here with Jamie Gourlay and native Texan, Texas's own digital Leonardo, Erick
Oh, come
Snowfro
on.
Calderon.
Oh man, thanks for having me. I love that you guys are doing these talks. I think they're great.
Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much, and thanks
Yeah.
for jumping in. We've been so excited to speak to you. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks so much.
Of course.
Um, I've got a load of questions.
Let's do it.
Hop right in.
For starters, Erick, thank you for everything. I feel like in many ways you're kind of the founder of the space as we know it. And without wanting to sound too gushy, it's a great place to be. Somehow a load of really fantastic people have chosen to be here, and I think it's because there are other fantastic people here, and I think a lot of that comes from you and the energy that you put out. Is that something that you've ever, in terms of like shaping the culture of this community in the digital art world as it currently exists? Did that just happen? Is that something you've thought much about, like your personality like affecting the whole vibe?
No, I mean I am who I am. I know I'm a little bit weird, but I also I feel like if you try to shape culture, you're already off on the wrong foot. Like I think culture is based on, well, oftentimes at least is based on passion, authenticity. It's like I remember in the royalty conversations, it's like you're trying to force a culture. Like there's no quicker way to get people to be repelled to something positive and culturally interesting than to like make them feel like they should or have to participate in that culture. I've kind of been the same person since I started my little tile business in 2024 or 2004. And I don't know. I just get excited about what I'm excited about. And in this, I'm someone that's gone down like a million rabbit holes in my life. Like literally, like my poor wife has had to like deal with them. And there's these two, generative art and blockchain, and these are the deepest rabbit holes I've ever gone into. And they intersected. And I don't know, when we talk about like the most beautiful things in life, it's like when when you get to make your hobby like your everyday life. But like the idea that two deep hobbies intersect in one place is rare. And so that's the energy. It's like an atomic bomb goes off when like the two things that you're most passionate about in your life, other than family, like come together in one place. And of course, then when your hobby becomes your job, it's very different. And there's a lot to say about that. And I think maybe the hardest part of bringing the energy is how hard the last few years have been. And but I think enough good things are happening to where it keeps getting us out of bed in the morning, and we just keep showing up and just keep going.
Hard, I'm presumably mainly on as a founder rather than as an artist. Would it be fair to say?
I mean, the reason it's not so hard as an artist is because I learned a lot from Matt and John from CryptoPunks, and I saw what they went through. Even before the 2020 madness, like I saw kind of the rage and like the anger and the frustration, and I said to myself, I will never make space for that. And so, I saw founders and artists kind of really get into price and like thinking about like, so yeah, not a day goes by that I'm not concerned about the floor price of a Chromie Squiggle because I don't want anyone to get hurt. Like a lot of very close people own those things. And, I don't think they own them strictly for the financial reasons, but you still feel like the ups and downs. But as an artist, I've stayed as far away as possible from the financial conversation on my work. I've stayed as far away as possible from like promoting my work, like artificially promoting my work. I'm just having fun with my work. so yeah, it's the founder role, and it's less the founder role and more that you might think I might, be delusional, but I think the reason I started Art Blocks is still what I want Art Blocks to be today, and I'm fighting the idea that I would change my original intention based on what happened in the market, or I would change my original intention based on like the mania that came in 2021. And so that, I think the hardest part is just sticking to like why I did this, even though everyone's yelling at you, being like, you should do this and you need to do that, and this is the thing. Because if you do stick to it,
and sorry,
you're wrong,
and that was
like,
and this, you started it, you as an artist just wanting somewhere as a generative artist to release artwork. So I mean,
a
simple as
non-gate
that.
kept, like, like in defiance of the traditional gallery, the traditional art institution, the institution that never really kind of cared about what we were doing. And I live this life of hypocrisy, because on the one hand, I'm really proud of these institutional acquisitions, and I spend a lot of time talking to museums and trying to help them and figure out kind of what the future looks like. But on the other hand, I still feel that Theo Pepin, Snow Pepin for Jack Butcher might be one of my most, in 20 years, I'll look back at like maybe one of the most important moments in my artistic career. And that has nothing to do with museums. It has nothing to do with like that. And so I live a life of hypocrisy, or maybe maybe hypocrisy is a harsh word. It's more like being pulled in different directions and not really knowing what's best, but or what to celebrate, or maybe we just celebrate everything. Yeah.
So on the art blocks front then, and keeping to that original vision, how has, I'd love to hear like how you've thought about how to think about art blocks from 21 to today. I mean, you must have been pulled in so many different directions. It must have been.
Can I back up real quick? You've said that you don't want the core goal of art blocks to change, not just not dependent on the market and everything that's happened the last 2 years. What is the core goal of art blocks?
Well, starting with like accessibility, open and accessible for everyone to participate. On
the collecting side,
on participation side, yeah, like it's all public art. Anybody can look at any art blocks piece in its native state on any device, right? And I do believe that we've been granted an opportunity to democratize art. That these shifts don't happen that often in history, and I do feel like we are being dragged. This is this hypocrisy, right? About like museums or whatever. It's like, I feel like we're getting dragged back into like, and I remember, people asking for like membership passes and airdrops to avoid gas wars, and being like, no, like that's exactly what I'm trying not to do. Create more barriers to entry. Like, the blockchain is this beautiful, transparent thing that allows anybody to participate if they want to. There's no gatekeeping mechanism to operate on the blockchain, and that's the ethos of a lot of what. That's why I was able to claim punks. Like, that's why these things exist, and I am trying really hard to stick to that. And I guess the other side of that I think is really interesting is, Art Blocks often gets compared to Xcopy. Art Blocks is compared to punks. Art Blocks is a platform business. Punks is an artwork. Xcopy is an artist. This idea that Art Blocks is like this, like, artists should gatekeep if they want to gatekeep. Artists should set whatever price they want to set. And I could look back and say, okay, maybe Art Blocks should have been more forceful with artists on like their pricing and how they like did stuff. But again, like, that's not our role. Our role was to provide this technology to like put this art out there, and it, people got really excited about it, and the result is a very interesting, roughly 500 projects that were released that kind of define this moment of the intersection of the generative medium and blockchain technology. And there will continue to be fantastic, incredible projects within that medium. but the result is this kind of this moment. And that moment was not fettered by, like, everything was fully on chain. Any preservation efforts that happened for one project apply to all projects. Nothing was ever gate kept. Not a single thing in that collection was ever, you had to know somebody, you had to have some kind of privilege. Like, everything was open to everybody. And I'm really proud of that. And that's what I mean when I talk about, like, the original, democratization of the art.
I feel that the deeper we've gone into this industry kind of unfolding, the more kind of it's become clear why the art world proper, what the gallery world operates in the way it does. Because if something's completely open, anyone can get it, then your options are sell it for fair market value, perhaps at auction, in which case it's gonna, there's going to be no upside for collectors initially, or you can underprice it a bit, and then there's going to be a first come first serve scramble and flippers will get involved. Cool. Or you could reserve some for people who have shown support in the past, and as soon as you start kind of going down that route, you're moving down the kind of the model that a lot of people in this space kind of wanted to get away from.
Once you start, right, it's like once you just kind of open that door, it's like you can't close.
But is it
that
bad?
door.
Is it inherently bad though? Like, is it inherently worse than the alternative?
I mean, if humans were inherently good all the time, it's not bad, right? But, like, what evolved in the art world was and I've said this before, like, as a business owner in the tile business, I would reward my best customers. I'd give them discounts. I'd do whatever. Like, you do take care of your best customers. You have to support your best customers, but you never support your best customers at the detriment of, like, the core reason that your business exists. And then on top of that, it's not the role of the platform to create the gatekeep. I don't have a problem with gatekeeping if the artist wants to gatekeep. I just don't understand why it's the role of the platform to make the decisions on behalf of the artist of, like, what can be collected and what cannot be collected. That's the rub. The artist doing a Dutch auction with too high of a resting price. Look, we went to bat every single release. It's like, no, you should drop it. No, my art is this much on secondary, so this is my fine. Like, there's only so much the platform can do without feeling like we're imposing or like we're basically trying to write the narrative. I mean, regardless of whether it was the artist's choice or not, the platform gets yelled at anyways, of course. But that's, part of this idea that, like, art blocks is somehow treated as an artwork or a PFP or a artist. Like, art blocks, it's like people can't see past the fact that art blocks is a company that started as a hobby that turned into a business so that we could maintain what happened in 2021. Otherwise, there's no way me by myself as my little passion project, or even me and Jeff, would have been able to manage 2021. And that's where things were heading. And as a result, we grew into a big company, and company has to do things that we need to do to, like, stay alive. And I don't know, it's like everyone thinks that they have, like, the right answer, or how they would have done it would have been, like, the right way to do it. And maybe it would have been, but maybe it wouldn't have been. Maybe things would be worse today for art blocks. Like, when art blocks was being told to, like, add membership passes and, like, gatekeep drops was, I think the strongest I ever got for that was the operator drop. Like, that was the
what do you
most,
what do you mean by the strongest you ever got?
The most pressure I got to, like, gatekeep. And meanwhile, I know the market is kind of starting.
From who?
From collectors. Yeah. Because they were really excited about that drop. Right. And meanwhile, I'm already watching the market kind of taper off. Could you imagine if, like, to buy an Artplex curated piece today, you had to have a membership pass? Like, if our goal is to kind of hopefully expand to an out, there's no longer a queue. There's no longer more people trying to collect than the number of pieces that there are. We think in such short-term thinking. Like, you can't have a membership pass. You can't release a platform with a membership pass and then take the membership pass without actually screwing your supporters even worse than just never having added the membership pass in the first place. There's a lot of platforms.
Have any passes worked out well here? I mean, rare passes did not go over well. I can't think of any passes that have worked out well.
Give me one example.
Artists pull out of stuff too. Like, they create drama because you're creating a promise towards the future too on a pass. It's like, okay, now I have to hit all of these 10 promises over the next year.
And they always have to be better than the last one, or you failed.
Exactly.
But the example is the way the art world, the gallery world do it. It's not as kind of direct and obvious as a membership pass, but Gagosian, by saying to their to their collectors, the very best new works are only going to be sold to our biggest supporters. I do think that way of doing things has helped the art industry become the behemoth that it is, because it makes sense for those big buyers to pay big money in the knowledge that there might be someone out there who isn't able to get this who would be willing to pay more. There might not be, but the hope that there might be makes it make sense for them. And they then hold it, they don't sell it, and in their mind they're paying $2 million for something that might be worth $6 million, and that maybe enables them to keep going. So I don't know. I
think that's right. I mean, I think that makes sense. But you say it's a behemoth, but how many people participate in the behemoth compared to how many people live on this planet? So, like, the art world could be more of a behemoth if 50 times more people, 100 times more people were participatory, and this new technology they would have allows more people to be participatory, and then social media allows more people to know about and get excited about an artist in ways that artists never had access to. Like, the gallery model is fine. I think it makes perfect sense, but the gallery model is based on faxes and phone calls and letters. Like, that's when that model kind of got started. Now we have artists that don't need galleries, that can generate infinitely more attention and revenue without the gallery. Some still do, some don't. It's your choice. And so it just feels outdated. Like, it just feels outdated to me. I don't know.
Is it outdated, or would it be good for the industry if we had both? Like, if Gagosian did get involved and they played those games and they built it up to the point where, you know, people were buying things for $5 million on primary, which does happen, and which does happen. It makes sense to buy something for $4 on FX Hash, because maybe one day that artist might, like when you've got that kind of that path up to that. Do you kind of see what I'm saying?
What's stopping you from buying that awesome artist on FX Hash today for $4 or $10? That's the beauty
for sure.
It's all available.
Yeah, no,
cost-effective.
About their token
incredible
is what's
art.
stopping me today.
No, I completely agree. I guess I'm just kind of saying that surely a world where you have both is going to result in a bigger and better industry, because massive primary headlines is going to result in more people getting involved, more artists, it being more of a thing.
I agree with you. A hybrid world is probably going to be the end result. And the beauty of the blockchain is that even in the more kind of behind closed doors relationships that the traditional art world has, assuming that anything digital of value is transacted on the blockchain, because it would be weird to be if it wasn't, there will be some transparency that something changed hands. There will be some transparency of lineage of ownership. It will be harder for games. There's games that are played there, right? Like, it's not all good. Like, there's a lot of collectors that are very good collectors that get shut out from that as well. And then there's this like FOMO. It's like, I feel like the idea of creating a business around FOMO, if we wanted to do that at Art Blocks, we'd be in a different place right now. Like, that wasn't our intention. FOMO happened at Art Blocks. It was part of this mania 2021. I'm a Swatch person, not a Hublot guy. And I love both companies, right? I'm a BMW guy because if you go to Porsche, they mark up the car because there's more demand than there is for the car. And so they the dealership raises the sticker price because they know they can charge you for it. Like, the way I view commerce and the way I view things, it just feels like there's a generational shift in what is considered acceptable commerce. And the idea of, walking into a Porsche dealership and they have a sticker price of the car, and then you walk up to a salesperson and say, oh man, and they laugh at you because you thought that was the real price. Actually, no, we add another $100,000 on top of sticker because we can't get these cars. Like, you're right, Gagosian, whatever, that makes some people tick. That does not make me tick. Like, I think maybe that's the problem. It's like a lot of the problems I think that we felt at Art Blocks. It's like people want what makes them tick. to be what makes me tick. And in some ways, like I said, we'll make a bunch of mistakes along the way, but we have a long-term view of this. We're here for the right reasons. We started for the right reasons. We're here for the right reasons. We're having as much fun as we can doing this. We're getting some beautiful things happening on one side. There's some rough things happening on the other. There can be a hybrid model, Jamie. You're absolutely right. I don't have any problem with people. The only problem I have is the fact that people impose that on me. Otherwise, people can do whatever the fuck they want. Like, I'm happy for people. We should let people be who they are and let them do what they want and support the galleries that make us feel special supporting them because they make us feel FOMO or they make us feel included. I think a lot of the early success of Art Blocks was a feeling of inclusion in the dialogue around art from people that would never in a million years ever have had that. And that would not play out with this new model. That just wouldn't happen because they would be shut out. Art Blocks, the NFT space in general, is going to have a much slower trajectory if we do not make what we do interesting and compelling to outside audiences. And to an outside audience being like, not only do you have to like figure out what the hell Ethereum is and figure out how to deal with your wallet, but you also have to figure out how to climb some social ladder or some like financial ladder to like participate in my stuff. It's just not interesting to me. And I have no resentment for or ill will for people that find that interesting. I think that's great. And that's why people buy $4,000 handbags. You know, like that's why people, like some people, that's what drives them. It's just not what drives me. And I'd like to be able to continue to operate in a way that I don't change fundamentally from a Swatch guy to a Rolex guy just because like the community or the collectorship says this is what the right thing to do is.
Did anything change in your way of thinking about Art Blocks from the beginning of the boom to now? I mean, you've obviously kind of acquired Sansa. You curated in studio. There's evidence of like, yeah, you've obviously kind of been experimenting with a few other things, trying to kind of see if there could be other ways of building Art Blocks. But yeah, would love to just hear how that thought process kind of played out over the.
I think the biggest change is that I didn't launch Art Blocks to be like a high art platform. It was graced with wonderful art projects early on, and it made me change the way that I was thinking about being this place for anybody that wants to do something generative. It felt like that was a disservice to also not somehow elevate the projects that actually inspired me to create Art Blocks in the first place that I thought would never end up on art. Like I just never thought Tyler Haas would ever release something on Art Blocks. Like I never thought these people, Chettle, Melissa Widerack, like, well, partly because they had flat out, a lot of them been like, no, this is stupid. Like, why would I ever do that? But also just because it's like, you want to have like your favorite musician at your birthday party. Like it just doesn't happen. I didn't think people were going to care about Art Blocks. I really didn't. Like I didn't, I did this thing because it was fun and I was deeply in Web3 by then. And I just really wanted to do this thing. So I think my biggest shift is just like this difference of looking at Art Blocks as this kind of like open thing to recognizing that incredible work has been released on the platform and realizing that it is a disservice to not find ways to preserve it. And so, kind of creating the whole curated thing. Like when I launched Art Blocks, there was no concept of curated. Like, what am I curating? Who the hell is even going to release something on the platform? I basically had to beg my brother, and Jeff was like very kind to understand it early on, right? So that shift and that transition, and but like there's always been this side of me that's like, okay, but don't forget why you started this. And so that's why this engine thing exists, right? It's like, well, we want to be able to make sure that you don't have to fit within this model that we've created to be able to release work on Art Blocks. The studio is semi-curated in that we're giving specific artist contracts, but it's I always have this little side of it that I'm just trying to keep with that original idea of letting people release work. I think that's the biggest shift.
How does it feel? You've had over 500 works on Art Blocks, but if we're being serious, three exhibitions get 90% of the mind share. What does that feel like being someone who wants a more democratized thing. I'm assuming you want more attention on all of the beautiful exhibitions that have been on there instead of just talking squiggles, ringers, fidenza, right? And there are other.
So I think that's a really interesting point. First of all, from a democratization perspective, I think we succeeded in the release mechanism, at least. Like, I think Web3 solves things and fixes some things, but there's like some fundamental things that it doesn't touch, right?
Blockchain doesn't change human nature. Yeah,
like exactly. This fundamental idea that like, there's millions of musicians on SoundCloud, but how many of them have people show up at concerts? And it's whatever whatever the authenticity or whatever like the drive is that causes that to happen. That said, to me, every one of those projects is very important. I've collected the vast majority of them and I'm trying to like collect even more. And yeah, I think there's a world where like those, what we call kind of this flagship, this curated playground factory, kind of where it was kind of a, open thing, the collaborations with Pace, the collaborations with Bright Moments, and then the explorations, which is a very special place in my heart. Those projects present a defining moment in kind of this world, this space, this kind of like evolution. And I'm personally excited to find more and more ways to help people discover more. We want people to discover everything across all of Art Blocks, but like this is the difference between Art Blocks is serving you a project, like we are releasing a project. Everything else on Art Blocks, factory, whatever, it is the artist or the platform releasing a project. And there's a pretty clean distinction. And we've slowed down very much this idea of serving new projects, of like producing or releasing projects. We've done one this year. We may do a couple more. Why? I don't know. We can talk about that if you want, like, what the dynamics are of like why we've kind of slowed that down. But
yeah, well, I would love to hear the thinking
there. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I think the hardest part is being just like so crazy hyper excited about generative as a medium, and then having to dig through Reddit for years to find a generative artist, to then like being presented with 4,000 artworks in the course of 6 months. And the rate at which it happened and the rate at which people produced and the rate and then obviously like if everybody starts art school at the same time, because a lot of these were like engineers that got creative, which is really cool, then most people are going to produce the same work. And like the kind of the homogeneity of the work, like the homogeneity of the work. As a collector, I've found myself less and less compelled to like collect. I found myself less and less inspired by the work that was coming in to be presented at Art Blocks. It was phenomenal work. As a collector, a lot of us are fatigued, and it's about reading the market a little bit and just realizing we are in an ecosystem that expects you to raise the bar with every single thing that you do, and that you might eventually hit a ceiling at which you can do great work, but you may not be able to raise the bar. And if you're not able to raise the bar, attention can shift and move around.
I don't know if you follow basketball or sports so much, but the NBA, like the dunk competition, has the same problem. Like in the 80s, it's got, they can do cooler and cooler stuff. And then at some point, it's like the human body cannot come up with any more impressive thing to do. And it's just like, it's worn out and nobody cares anymore, and it has that same sort of, if you can't top it, if I've already seen it, fatigue. And also I have 3,500 NFTs. I've seen more art in 4 years than any, people say this online, but I've seen more art in 4 years than any number of humans in their lifetime for every generation up until now, so.
I mean, generative as a medium has suffered from that. I feel like, AI comes along and it's got the novelty factor and attention shifts for a bit.
I think so, but there's a homogeneity that comes from that as well, right? And so,
yeah, no, for sure, yeah.
And what's interesting to me, I always remember all these. There was always this like, ooh, this platform has a new minting mechanic. Like there's no artwork that I want to release in this world that I cannot release on the archaic architecture that I created for Art Blocks in 2020. Obviously, we've done a lot since then, but like, the distribution mechanism is still magical, and like the idea of the art being on chain is still magical. And I still think there's an enormous amount of potential to explore. But artists were not, one of my favorite artists in the world sat me down one time and he said, Erick, you are not inspiring artists to bring their best work forward.
You being Art Blocks?
Art Blocks. Like, I think that you can say all you want about like where curated is and like the curation board and like the decisions made, but like that body of work, as someone that's been in the generative medium for 15 years, I think represents some of the best generative artworks that have ever been created on the planet. And at that moment, like I absolutely think something curated in 24 would not have been curated in 21, right? But like we had a learning curve and we had to understand kind of what people could do with the technology. And I think that's part of this whole thing. I think that's part of the beauty of that collection. I just think we're in a space now where there's this like expectation and also this deafness to the collector. And like there's this new approach, right? Where it's like we're gonna DM the collector and like place artworks, which it works. I've bought a couple of things that way, but that will also play itself out, right? Like that eventually, like it's like, well, the first person, the second person, like when every day you're getting 25 DMs, it's just like, well, no, I'm just going to say no to everything. Like it's a new minting mechanism, right? Just like all the new minting mechanics that came out, like different ways. It's just the new one, but it's actually like a regression into like that older world way of thinking. And the problem is, everyone just wants things to happen so fast. Like, just wait, just chill the fuck out and wait, because like these things take time and not everything is going to be massively successful in anything in the world. Like you can buy a Porsche, it's worth more money 5 years from now. You buy any other car in the world, it's not worth more money 5 years. Like there's this expectation that somehow everything that is done within the space is going to be magical and profitable for people. And, if people bought cars only to be profitable, like people wouldn't buy cars. Like some people buy cars because they love to drive. Some people just need to get from point A to point B. If everybody in the world bought art just to be profitable, people wouldn't be buying art, because the vast majority of the art is not profitable, at least not in a short-term horizon. If you want alpha, if you want to understand how to be profitable in art, look at the artists that are dedicating their lives to this. Look at the artists that like lost their job or quit their job and then like got a taste of being an artist and then had to get a job again and are still making art,
releasing, yeah,
and are thinking about like a 30-year career. That's the fucking alpha. Those people in 30 years are going to be the people that are going to be, in my opinion, the most incredible artists in the world. And the people that are commenting on the artwork today that might have quit their job because they were making so much money flipping stuff, and then they realized, oh my gosh, like I kept reinvesting and blew it all on like the next thing or whatever. Then they had to get a job again, but they're still here posting and like participating. Those are probably going to be the most influential art critics and curators in 15 to 20 years. Give me a really good reason why that would not play out. Like, give me a really good reason why there's not a good chance that those two things do not play out. And if so, then can we just be a bit more patient and just understand that like these things take time, and find the joy in being here if you're still here. And if it's all about like the financial side, find your joy. And if you can't find it, like that sucks, but like we can't do that for you. Like if I can't do that for my company, how am I going to do that for you?
Rewinding a second then and trying to bring it all together. So how are you then thinking about curated and the kind of more open way of artists minting, and what does Art Blocks look like going forwards in that regard?
Well, so the studio that we have is not it's not meant to be. It's meant to be a tool for artists to release, but within like the umbrella of Art Blocks, which I think is a nice little umbrella to be in.
So the rule is if you've released on Art Blocks, you can release whenever you like with Studio. Is that right?
For the most part. I mean, we wanted to be extremely careful that when we released the studio, it didn't feel like an extension of This Presents line, because that wasn't what it was. Like it's been really important to me to be able to feel like we're in a position at Art Blocks where Art Blocks is not seen as the one releasing the work, but supporting the release. And for many years, for everything in that, except for the curated releases where we are heavily participating in that release, And so, yeah, the studio originally was scaled back to just give contracts to artists we'd work with because they know how to use our platform. They know how to use our technology. And so then they can release on their own and they're not going to cause a lot of trouble. And like, obviously we've had to downscale our blocks a couple times over the last few years. And so like we also have less manpower to be able to manage these things. In a perfect world, the most beautiful artworks in the world are released on the Artblock Studio alongside obviously Verse and other platforms. But like, it feels like that not every artist wants a big release or even qualifies for a big release, or when there's even more and more art, it's even harder to get to that level of attention or appreciation from the gallery.
But how likely is it though that an incredible artist is going to release their best work on Studio instead of push for a curated release?
I think it's unlikely in today's environment.
Right.
I think it's very unlikely, but I also I don't know. I mean, I'm wrong a lot, but I see it as a really great place to put your work. Like, especially with like preservation efforts and stuff like that. I think it's like a great place to release your work. There's only like you and Fellowship, and like there's only like 4 or 5, like, what Adam's doing, what Mimi's doing. Like, there's only a few people that are capable of releasing exceptional work. And maybe there's not like a ton of exceptional work out there all the time, but there's a lot of really great art. And so if it's not going to get that level of attention, to me, that's the home for the work. Like, that's a great home for the work. I'm biased, obviously I started it, like, but that's where if I don't have an artwork in the studio because I haven't had time to make an artwork in the studio, and now that I'm making an artwork, I'm doing it in collaboration with a gallery. And so like but absolutely, if I was not burning the candle on both ends and I had the luxury of just releasing artwork here and there, I would absolutely be releasing it in the studio myself.
And so if a generative artist who hasn't already released with Artblocks wants to release with Studio, they get in touch.
They just get in touch. Yeah. They get in touch, and we look at the work, and there's a lot of work that merits making exceptions, even if we're overwhelmed with the amount of work that we have and the few people that we have on the team, right? Like, and so now the decision isn't as hard. It's kind of like, well, we have a lot of work and not enough people, and we have big ambitions for this year and some huge plans. And so if we're going to take time aside from that to like explain to someone how to like create their own studio contract and go through that stuff, like it's got to be pretty exciting stuff.
My question for you guys are you competitors? Is this a Snowfro versus Jamie thing?
Look, I don't know. Jamie's always said no. Look, I think that today I don't think anybody's a competitor today. I mean, at this point, things are different. When things started getting a little bit rough for our blocks, like any person, any entity was like, it just felt like this, like, I don't know how to explain it. I think we were doing very different things, but also doing very similar things. And I mean, I think in the end, there's like one pool of capital to sell to, both for the platform and for the artists. And, the more people that are selling.
But there isn't really, because the amount of capital goes up as excitement goes up, and as it feels like,
depends on what the collector group was at launch, right? So I don't feel as much about versus other platforms, but it's like initially it was like everybody was just kind of targeting the same group of people, and at that point it is just one group. Now I have to hand it to you, Jamie and Verse. I mean, you guys have done an exceptional job of like branching out and accepting credit cards very early on and not requiring you to have a crypto wallet very early on. And so to be honest, from that moment on, it felt, different. Like, it's like, well, no, they have an opportunity to reach a new audience. But it does feel like there's this capitalistic desire to like, when people enter the space, to like go after this like group of people that I feel like I'm trying to protect to some degree, right? And Artblocks is releasing less work. Like, if you look at the exponential decline in our releases, we're even when we knew we could still make more money by releasing more work, we're like exponentially declining our releases, and then that is just going to other places, which is fine. But like, we're trying to also be acknowledging of the ecosystem, like the changes, and have our ear to the ground and not be deaf to the space. So it's hard to watch.
I think for us, we came in thinking, well, in 15 years' time, this is going to be a thing. Digital art collecting is going to be a thing. It's got to be easy. It's not going to be something for crypto people. It's going to be something for anyone who wants to get involved in collecting art, and it's going to be about great art made easy. So if we can kind of build a marketplace on the primary and secondary markets that just is that kind of jumping in point for non-crypto people, that is still our long term. That was our long term on day one, but in the shorter term, it's like, oh god, like we are a very, very long way away from this being a useful product for the masses. And the reality is that art box artists are the only ones who sell. And yeah, that was kind of yeah. So you're absolutely right. We were kind of looking to where the attention was.
It's a business, so that's okay. Like, there's not actually anything wrong with that, right? Like, in my like emotional fucking roller coaster that has been the last few years, it's like, when we put on the brakes at Art Blocks, it took a long time for that truck to stop. You cannot drive a 18-wheeler full of cargo, and by cargo I mean committed 6 months in advance with artists to do a release. There was no world in which I was going to say, you know what, artists, never mind, sorry. Like, artists were so excited about the releases or whatever. So it took a really long time to slow that down. And emotionally, it was very hard for me because I felt like we were slowing this down in reaction to what I felt was right for this ecosystem. And, I've said this before, like at Art Blocks, people looked at me as like, oh, you're running Art Blocks like an artist, or you're running Art Blocks like a charity. You're just, all you care about is like the art and the artists and what are the collectors. And I'm like, no, what I care about is preserving this brand and this legacy that we built, and continuing to find a way to extract at maximum is not the solution, because I've seen this play out multiple times in cycles of crypto, but also in other brands outside of crypto. And so we went through this like very strong pressing the brakes. It took 6 to 9 months from the time we decided to slow things down to the time we finally slowed things down to where we were doing less releases and less releases. And so it was emotionally difficult to do that. And then watching at that moment is roughly around the same time when a lot of new platforms came in. And so you basically giving that market share away in response to trying to do the right thing of like being a participant in Web3 and trying to understand the fatigue and also the kind of the homogenization of the art and the homogenization, like, the mania around flipping, in order to preserve the brand and the legacy.
You couldn't really win that.
Built. But I mean, you could say that was a terrible business decision, and it might have been.
What are your thoughts on that in retrospect? I mean, had you, how do you think about that?
I mean, if the goal was to protect the brand, I think you've in on that metric you've succeeded beyond. I mean, like, because Art Blocks is still AAA. We're not downgrading Art Blocks to like we do the U.S. government bonds. Like it's still like a AAA brand. You think?
It depends on what you're here to do. If you're here to flip, you have downgraded Art Blocks to like triple D, and that's okay. But like in terms of like what do
we care?
I mean, I do, because I care about everybody, right? And this is something that's really interesting. I've been over the last 3 years, it took me 2 or 3 years to acknowledge the absolute criticality and importance of that flipper in putting generative art on the map, right? So like, it's like this resentment that I had about the people that would mint 50 things and then from a democratization perspective, push people out from a drop because they would like over mint or whatever. And then the secondary frenzies and like, man, there was so much resentment. And then like that went away because you start realizing, I mean, it sucks. Like those people literally ruined Art Blocks for a long time in terms of like not being able to buy a mint. But that also like was a maturing process. And like, I think that being in Web3 is hard. And you guys all know that. And I think there's a certain level of, look, I want nothing. I mean, you ask people in Grailer's DAO, they would probably disagree, but like I literally want nothing but the best for every single person that's here, including
Grailer's
the collectors.
DAO love you, Eric.
I don't know. Justin told me the other day, he was like, going to bat for me. So I can only imagine what that conversation was like. But I really do want nothing but the best, but like what's the best for the collective is not the best for individual parts at different times it's impossible to please everybody. So ultimately, like the buck stops with me. I'm responsible. And what's most important to me is that I'm 44 years old. I've been doing a bunch of shit in my life, making some art, making some businesses, and I feel like I made something inadvertently, because that wasn't the original intention for Art Blocks, that was really special, and I'm really proud of it. And it's like maybe the most meaningful thing I will contribute in my life to society, right? Like as an accident.
More so than Squiggles.
It's part of that. It's just part of that thing. And I will die on this hill that I will defend that to the death. And that's why if Art Blocks is not making money one year, we're still investing in Marfa, because like Marfa is a very special experience. And actually, Artie, when you ask about competition, I remember this one time in Marfa, because we're being honest here, I turned around and Jamie was there, and Jamie was talking to like an artist, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, because I mean, this is this time where I felt like everything's just kind of slipping away to some degree. Like artists were like, ooh, platforms with gallery exhibition, like that's so cool. Like I appreciate that, and this and that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like Marfa's our little safe space here. But like there was a bunch of people that were like not,
Rating.
kind of well, what'd you say?
Rating.
No, I wouldn't say rating, but I was just like, I just felt this like lack of control. Like I'm not even maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak. I don't know. But like, I was just like, oh shit, like, there's no safe space anymore. Right. In terms of like, you could very well have been inadvertently someone that was going to release something on Art Blocks, maybe had gotten them excited to release elsewhere, or because Art Blocks had a 6-month delay on doing releases. Like it was so easy to kind of like also be like, well, or because Art Blocks had Gas Wars, or because Art Blocks had a Dutch auction or whatever. And so, we invest in Marfa, and we invest in the things that
it's so I'm sorry, it's so interesting to hear you say that, because to us it was like Art Blocks are, I mean, like there's Art Blocks, and then there is we're like way underground. I mean, sorry, yeah,
but you guys did an excellent job, and continue to do an excellent job. Like look, there's people that have come into the space to fill the voids that Art Blocks left or had, because we did fly by the seat of our pants for long. It's very easy. Like Art Blocks, we talk about this yearly at our like company meetings. Like Art Blocks has like 50 targets on our back as a business, as a competitor, the holes that we're filling. And then there were some holes that I just didn't even see how we would ever start to fill, which is the traditional gallery presence, the beautiful kind of like, and y'all filled that exceptionally well. And that was a hole that I didn't really see us being able to truly meaningfully be effective in. And if we're fully decentralized organization, or like, we're like all over the world, like we're, our little galleries in Marfa, like it just never felt like it was going to be this thing. And so I have to say that, I mean, I look back at that, I'm just being honest. Like I look back at that and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm probably losing another art like release right now, and I look back at that and I realized that it was petty, but it was also probably like just this moment of, we literally were pumping the brakes on this thing to try to preserve this thing as much as possible. And it felt like the harder I pumped the brakes, the more, I mean, there's nothing more disappointing if you're a big generative art person than watching your favorite artist release on another platform. Like there's no way, like, if you created a generative art platform, there's nothing more, like this is the most beautiful thing that, like, to me, it's that when the artist came and they released stuff on Art Blocks, like that catalog of work. And so, yeah, it was always, I mean, there's no way around it. I guess I'm a jealous guy. I don't know. I mean, I'm generally not, but like, if there was an artist that like never released on Art Blocks and that will never release on Art Blocks because of X, Y, and Z, like I don't even remember what the issue was, but like I think we offended W Blue, I don't know how to say the name, like really early on, and he's like an artist I've been following for a while. I have infinite amount of respect. I don't think he'll ever release on Art Blocks. I would love to see his work on Art Blocks. And then there's artists that came and released on Art Blocks and had massive success on Art Blocks, but then like never came back, right? And so it sucks to watch that happen when you're literally living and breathing 24/7. Like that's all you do your whole life. You're like, what, your kids are growing up because you're traveling all the time and like busting your ass for this. And yeah, it hurts. I don't, I'm just being human here. I don't know. Maybe I like need to grow up a little bit, but like, yeah, it hurts to see that happen. Like in a time when the economy, like, the market's getting down and like sentiment is really negative. And then like on top, it's like adding.
I mean, it remains the case, the reality that AB curated is the absolute pinnacle of generative art. I can't see that changing anytime soon. Is Art Blocks always going to be exclusively generative?
Yes. Generative, as in, look, on-chain is badass. Generative art is on.
Who knows what generative even means?
But like the distribution mechanism, the idea of like surprise of you're not going to get, even curated pieces is fine, like pre-curated. But I would like art blocks to always have a hand in, or really kind of focus on things that leverage the blockchain's intersection with the generative medium. And that's not to say that I'm opposed to, I'm doing my release and there's going to be a 1 of 1. It's like the complete antithesis of everything that I stand for to some degree, but also like I'm really excited about this one very, 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 very special component of like a bigger project. I want Art Blocks to always focus on things that have distribution mechanism in mind. Like the CryptoPunks were not individually emailed to 10,000 people. People came in self-serviced. Like that's really interesting to me. The Squiggle code was put on chain in 2020 and then 10,000 were self-serviced. Like as an entrepreneur, as like a technologist, like that still blows my mind every single day. Like it's 5 years later.
I mean, I remember pointing to Squiggles when talking to an art world friend of mine about art, about what was happening in NFT land. This guy's an art dealer. So much work selling a single piece. Just like this guy Snowfro's just sold like en route to selling 10. Like what? I mean, it must
meanwhile, I spent 100 times more time trying to sell a Generative Goods hat for like $75, right? Like, if you really are doing this to chase the money, like, no, we got to do this. Like if you do things, this doesn't work for everybody in the world, but if you do things for the right reasons and you do things with like the right approach, it works out in the end. Yeah, I mean, it was a really nice time when you could just like sell something for a bunch of money. That's not the case today. But more importantly, I want more people to be excited about this, and that's where I focus most of my time. And I think
when did you realize? Sorry, when did you realize Squiggles were becoming Squiggles? Was there a tipping point?
Somebody paid 0.5 ETH for a bold. ETH was $500 or something, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like I just kind of like, wait, what? Because it was 0.035 was like like they were still minting and someone like paid for like a rare one. It's just crazy.
How did you when you did realize that they were, taking off and becoming a thing, how did you have the self-restraint to put a cork back in the bottle and keep a certain amount, and that you so thoughtfully released and gifted over time? Because I think that was something that a lot of people saw, and because you were gifting something that quote unquote cost nothing to you, but were $10,000+ as a gift to someone, that was like a major, brand ambassadorship almost of everything.
There was no world in my mind that all the Chromium Squiggles would have been gone within 5 weeks. There was absolutely no chance of that happening. And so the moment that I thought that could happen, I thought I would lose my ability as an artist and a founder to share with someone what I'm passionate about. And so I put a stop to the mentor. And I don't know, that's who I am. Like this is like me sharing my work that way, or like getting excited, like, sharing what I'm excited about. It's like a business card. Like, I don't know. This was like I wanted this to be available and accessible to as many people as possible. And yeah, I mean, at least 500 of the Squiggles were given away while they were $40,000 a piece. Like, and then some of those giveaways were hypers and all this crazy shit. Like, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But I think there's been so many different instances in Web3 where I have watched people show their true colors and their true intentions. And It's okay because we're all human and we all have these like contentions inside of us to some extent. And it was like, it's like this inevitability that like a PFP founder would like dump their stash into the floor, or this inevitability that like somebody would rug a project or that would release another work that looks just like the first one, or whatever it might be. Like, it's just crypto, right? Like, we've been seeing this like happen over and over and over again. Just like this happens with every single like thing that happens new in crypto, and we expect that like somehow one company is going to be immune to it. Like, no, this happens to every new thing in crypto. It goes like this. Like, some of them go back up. It just takes a little while.
Well, and everyone knows you're not that person. I've got one question on my notes. Not even questioning that you're not that person, obviously. But I think I'm right in saying you got a $2 million offer for
an ape.
For an ape.
Yeah, fuck that.
Okay. So obviously, like, to the public, it was like, he's never gonna take it. Were you and your wife like, oh god, this is tough, or just the most obvious easy no ever?
Let me just make something pretty clear. I was very fortunate. I believe that people should be allowed to sell their NFTs whenever they want to. I say that to people, and I don't practice that. Like, I feel this tremendous amount of guilt when I sell my stuff, because it's like, and I've never sold art box pieces, obviously. Like, that, feels like technically I should be able to if I wanted to, but like in my mind, there's just no world. My financial independence came because people offered me amounts for CryptoPunks that I would have been completely irresponsible to not accept. And so I did, and I accepted a few in autoglyphs, and then 95% of my net worth is probably still in NFTs and punks and glyphs and art blocks. But I took enough off the table to where I'm happy and I'm satisfied where I'm at. That can change at any moment. Health can change, things can change. But yeah, it's interesting. The other day someone was like, so how many billions of dollars does our blocks have in the bank? And I was like, wait, what? Like, there's like this like perception of like what like is real versus what's not real, yeah, like, I make a salary at Artblocks like everybody else does, but like Artblocks is not the reason, that I get to live a more comfortable life. It's actually just having claimed punks, thought they were worthless, but thought they were cool, and sitting around for a few years, and then people, and more with autoglyphs, I think, even than punks. It's like with autoglyphs, I actually paid. I went deep, and I like Pranksy and Nate and all them were dumping their glyphs because they weren't going up, and I just went and bought all of them because I was like, this is going to be the most important artwork in the world. And yeah, it's just, so no, a $2 million offer on an ape. Like, also, let me just, I'm gonna make it a little bit less authentic as well. There's no way I would have taken the offer, but for me to access that wallet takes roughly 2 weeks of travel.
Right. Okay.
And so I have no way of accepting that offer in any reasonable time frame anyways.
Right.
So it's easier to also just be like, well, but no, I have no desire. In fact, a previous ape that I had sold for much more than that. So I'm not really,
Got it.
I was going to ask a sort of a taste question. Like, what are the things or project or artists that excite you, or what are the things that have come out of this last couple of years of bear market that you're just like, holy shit, I can't believe that was released. Like, that's fucking awesome,
Well, in the Cabal, there's the Sam Spratt concept, and not just because of the visuals, although those visuals are great, but the concept.
Are you in the Cabal?
I have a skull.
Right.
And then, but I'm also, I consider him a very good friend. I think that he has demonstrated the utilization of the blockchain, like, with the messages and all, like it just, this networked art, he has demonstrated the concept of networked art from scratch. And I love that. I think he's doing a phenomenal job with that. And watching artists that have developed a hand in their art has been really, really interesting, especially in like a bear market. And like, watching, an artwork that you clearly know is that artist by looking at it before you have to read who did it, to me is something that, over the first 2 years of Mania was really hard to, Alexandre did it from the very beginning. I think he's always had a very phenomenal, like, this is clearly an Alexandre, but watching other artists kind of go through that in a bear market over time, I think is really interesting, where like you see some weird works and, you kind of know it's a silhouette. Like, maybe you're wrong, maybe you're right, but like, you're pretty decent chance you look at this thing and it just is like, it just has like silhouette vibes. Like, to me, that's a pinnacle of like, this is like an artist, and watching it play out over 5 years, people that probably weren't even thinking they would ever sell art beforehand has been really fun and interesting. And then in terms of AI, I have some strong feelings about AI in terms of like the technology. Like, to me, it's another tool for automation. The blockchain was a phenomenal tool in that regards. I love very much and collect AI work. I also have, I'm so deep into what I'm doing at Artblocks that most of the stuff that I actually find myself collecting is just still Artblocks stuff or Artblocks adjacent. There are a couple artists that have just stood out and done that thing, like with the hand of the artist. And one of them is Delta Sauce, who I just, gotten to know him in Marfa last year and just think he's a wonderful human. But like, every time he posts something, and not everything he posts is for sale, which I think is really interesting. I get so excited when I see it. There's this artist, Zaxi. I think he's in Turkey, like these rainbow yarn things. I mean, just right up my alley in terms of like my affinity for color. But clearly Zaxi pieces, like every, J.R. Casas is doing some stuff. I don't think it's AI. Sasha Styles, you always know it's Sasha Styles. Like, you always know. So to me, that those are things that are really interesting to me, because I am thinking 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what's probably going to define an artist is the artist that you can immediately tell. It's like when you hear a band and you're like, oh, I know what song that is. I know who's saying that, because, there's a certain vibe. And so I'm thinking about what those artists will look like in a few years. And I think some of them were very blessed and lucky to come in at the right time and explode and already have built a reputation. And some of them are still kind of figuring it out, but they're still showing up and they're still here every single day. And I'm infinite excitement and gratitude for those.
Do you think about that your own work?
Well, I just want to say one more thing about AI. I still struggle with AI art generated work, like in that, the closest analogy I can have to this is that when you're at a restaurant and they like sell you on this like badass dessert, and you take the first bite and it's like the most incredible bite that you've ever had in your life, but then like you can't finish the dessert because it's just too, there's something there that happens when I first am presented a body of AI work that I am just like, fuck, that is cool. And as I look through, and you could say this is hypocritical because you could say this for Artblocks, right? You see one piece and then you start looking through the collection and they kind of have, or for generative. As I start looking through it, it becomes too rich for me, and it kind of like harder for me to grok. And so some of these larger AI collections, I just haven't been able to form like a really solid opinion around them. What I've really enjoyed though is like, for example, Delta's issues. It's like every single piece I wanted to own like 80 of them out of that entire collection. And I haven't really felt that way with a tremendous amount of AI stuff. Whereas with generative, I say Artblocks, with generative stuff, there's many collections that were released where I wanted to own like the whole collection. If I could have afforded it, I would have just tried to buy the whole collection. So still haven't kind of grokked that. And I think the intersection of AI, generative, code-based stuff is going to be like really, really exciting and powerful. And, I think Sam did a good job of leveraging AI, but still feeling very real and authentic. And you've got, very interesting things happening across the ecosystem where people are just kind of trying to figure out how all these things come together. And I think the future is really bright. I think it's going to be really fun.
So Re-AB being a platform for generative art, is AI included within that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not in the Artblocks curated. I want everything that's within the curated or that kind of flagship collection to benefit from the same preservation efforts as everything else. Like you said earlier, Artie, or I don't know if it was Artie or Jamie talking about, there's 3 collections and then there's everything else. Everything else in there is going to have the same treatment and the same technical quality, the same, and that's important to me. The moment you start getting into AI stuff, you start losing that technical nerdy quality, but that technical nerdy quality is a lot of what brought people to Artblocks in the first place. That technical nerdy quality is why are autoglyphs. Like there is that side of it. And so, yeah, I don't see a world where like Art Blocks Curated ever brings in, and kind of really pushes something that's not 100% on chain. But I do see a future where Art Blocks collaborates with non purely on chain generative artists, like to help them release work. But yeah, without the constraint of that.
So the constraint is on chain rather than the specific medium, as it were.
The biggest constraint is if you have to put your work on chain. It is one of the biggest constraints, and I think it's constraint is beautiful in some ways, and I think that like I said, I will continue to always put work on chain myself if I can, because I think constraint is wonderful. My next project is, it's like you have the blockchain constraint, and then you have this other constraint that makes it even more constraining. So there's some interesting things that constraint brings to the table that are really interesting. So anyways,
can we poke on that a bit more?
I mean, there's some mystery to be had around it, mostly because I'm actually I'm really fucking excited about it. Like I'm really, I don't know, it could come out and people could just be like, this is the dumbest shit ever. But it's conceptually an idea I've been thinking about for a really long time. Technically an idea that have kind of come together from everything I've spent time doing at Generative Goods, everything I've spent time doing in Art Blocks, everything I spent time doing with my children. And it technically came into this really beautiful medium that I'm really excited to explore. And I'm just really excited about it. And I want to, but like I have this tendency to just start word vomit. And so I'm, I want to tell the story correctly. And so we have some fun, this is the first time that I've ever made an artwork where like every time I hit a stopping point, I save it and I put it in a folder, and I'm like, all my notes and my sketches and stuff are like I'm holding on to them, originally it's people like, oh, show me sketches of the Chromium Squiggle, and I'm like, there's a couple of pages of that, but they're not. So I really want to do this right, and I'm really like incredibly proud of this work, and I'm incredibly proud to do like a solo work. I'm really I'm proud to do a one-of-one that's associated with it. I think we're going to be pushing the limits of the blockchain in a completely I think we're going to be answering institutional questions with this, potentially for like fundraising questions for institutions. I think we're going to be hitting a nostalgia point that I'm just really excited. It's like still very much a part of my life, and
any sense of when? Or
August 14th.
Oh wow.
All right, I'll be back by then. Perfect. It's after my summer break.
Yeah, but you may think it's like the dumbest shit ever. So like you might,
I can't wait.
Just, but I'm excited. And ultimately, as an artist, like you have to make what makes you excited. And like I am actually excited about this. It is a commentary on it's a commentary on being a part of the space. It's a self-portrait, but that self-portrait is a self-portrait that anybody should be able to put their shoes in, like themselves in those shoes.
Digital only, physical components?
Yeah. It's digitally instructed physicals, of course. Like that's, I think, where the magic is the idea of a digitally instructed physical. So it's perfectly fine as a purely digital component, but the physical component I think will be pretty fun. And this is, again, like we've learned so much at Generative Goods, and got Generative Goods involved in it and kind of helping on the physical side. I don't know. It could be fun. It could be boring. It could be lame. But we'll see.
Can't wait to see. People
will have to work though to do it.
Your confidence has me excited, so I think that's when someone's like, I don't know how you're gonna take it, but I feel really fucking good about it. That's my favorite spot. Like when I hear that, that's the wheelhouse, because you're like, it's pushing something. People might be like, wow, this is crazy, but like I think that's where it's at. So I'm excited.
Thanks, man. I hope it resonates. And my goal with this project is that 2-3 years into it, people are still actively participating in it, and we'll see. I don't mean obviously people are still actively participating in squiggles and all these things. I just mean like engaging on a daily basis with it.
How do you split your time between artists, Art Blocks, Generative Goods, and?
It's not very good. Yeah, I was up till 2 last night again. I've been sleeping like 5 hours on a good day. So yeah, I spend most of my time during the day working on Art Block stuff, taking calls and doing stuff, and then we have Generative Goods Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, my wife and my brother, well, my wife lives here. But so this is a family business, Generative Goods now. It's my brother and my wife that work there, and that's it. And so my brother comes over, and we have Generative Goods Day. So Tuesdays, no meetings, just Generative Goods, and then so I work on Generative Goods website stuff on nights and weekends. And then I just stay up late working on the art, which is the best time to work on it, anyways, because the kids are asleep. But trying to be a good dad, and not like miss out on. And traveling more than I've ever traveled every year. It's like, oh, next year it'll be better. Next year is going to be less. And somehow this is the year I've traveled the most since I started.
You're amazing at hitting the conferences, and
If people would recognize that as a thing that we do for collectors, I'd rather be home oftentimes, right? Like, it's like I make the best of it when I'm there. There's no doubt. Like, you'll never see me like, well, there's been a couple times that I've had like a rough patch, but generally I'm like pretty happy and smiley and like, getting people excited and just, having fun and meeting people. And I don't know what other purpose it serves other than like being there with the people that are still here. And when oftentimes people say it's like, Arblox doesn't do enough for collectors. Well, maybe Arblox, doesn't do in your mind enough for collectors, but like Arblox.
I've been to Marfa twice and it's mind blowing.
Sure, but like, again, it's like, what do you mean by like? Do we not do enough for collectors to make money? But like, ultimately, this travel is a sacrifice. It's you travel all the time too. It's like a major sacrifice, and I do it because I'm excited to be in the same room as these people that are excited about the stuff that I'm excited about. Period. And people seem to get excited about, being in person, and I'm excited to support that. So, will you be in Lisbon?
I think so.
You think so? Oh, cool, awesome. Artie, will you be in Lisbon?
No, I'm. I got a 3, 4, and 6-year-old boys. Travel is quite difficult when no one's footing the bill. Travel's quite difficult.
Yeah, no, mine is 6 and 9, and they're both boys, so I can't imagine a third. Man, I'm so sorry. That sounds insane. Well, Lisbon should be a lot of fun, Jamie. I'm excited. I've never been. I mean, I've been to the city, but not as a conference. And years people have been like, "This is the best conference." So I'm super excited about
this. A lot of people going.
Should be fun.
Are you Artblock's CEO? Are you kind of in a creative position there? Okay, got it.
I am the CEO of Artblocks
and Generative Goods.
Still, and Generative Goods and Lenovo Tile.
Wow.
And my art practice.
And so what is
I co-CEO my family with my wife.
Generative Goods, I was speaking with someone who was talking about how, there's a vision to get IKEA using it and get generative I guess take generative art kind of to the masses. Like, what is the
I don't know that IKEA will ever use it. It's the IKEA.
That might not have been IKEA.
No, I say IKEA all the time. I would love IKEA to sell generative things. I think that'd be badass. But it's more just like, you got Artblocks curated, here in terms of like instruction based. When we talk about physical stuff, instruction based physicals, like, Boca, Mike is making the lamps himself. We work closely with Trem, but that's more like the interior design space, like thinking about how to get unique artistic objects into interiors spaces, where I see a big opportunity there just from being in the business for 20 years. And then you have the IKEA version of all that, right? So Artblocks curated, then you have like, I consider that kind of the stuff that you might see in Design Miami in 20 years. Like, you'll see a MPCA's lamp with the story of how it came out, when it came out. I look at, getting to work with a partner like Trem as like a Herman Miller or like a Knoll, and then I look at Generative Goods as like IKEA. That's where that comes from. Look, I sometimes build things because I think they should exist in the world, and sometimes I'm the only one that actually cares, and sometimes it turns out other people care. When I open my drawer full of t-shirts, because I'm not like a super fashionable person, and I have to make a decision between a bold chromy squiggle and a Far West kind of like generative sunset thing, and like they're all just black or very simple colored shirts, but they all have like this little tiny thing on there, I get a little tiny dopamine hit. And I think that we wear our PFPs online, and then most people try to take those like so many attempts at embroidering squiggles, but squiggles were never like good they were very difficult to embroider. This is actually my favorite one because there's only 2 colors, so it embroiders okay. but most squiggles don't embroider well. And so, but like the merch world is massive in Web3. It's like we want to share, represent ourselves in the physical space. And we, believe it or not, we still spend a lot of time in the real world, like in physical spaces. So I don't know, Generative Goods is kind of like a little creative studio for me to fuck around and like tinker with stuff. We're doing this fun little bingo thing where like you have an equal chance of minting one of each of different kinds of like the features of a generative art project, and then the first person to mint all 10, wins a little prize. Like thinking about how fun ways that we can use the technology and like the medium. And I do think one of my favorite things in the world is I've never cared about my clothes. I've never in my life cared about my clothes. I never wear big brands. I don't. And today I struggle with deciding which shirt I want to wear because I'm like, is today like a slinky day or like, and that's a feeling I've never gotten. And I think that I can't be the only person in the world. Like maybe this is maybe more kind of dudes that don't care that much about apparel, but like I can't be the only person in the world that has that. And so I want to dig into that. I want to figure that out. And whether that means that we're an apparel company, I don't know, because I don't know the first thing about apparel. But I surely, when I walk into these, because now we have a few shops that sell generative goods stuff in Houston, and like the generative goods cards are in 3 museum gift shops now, right? Like, it's like we're kind of getting a little bit of traction. It's like, how do you buy an artwork?
So you've got a few costs that sell generative goods stuff. So these are clothing stores that use your technology?
They're like local shops, like souvenir shops, whatever. Like because we did this Texas Far West one, so now the Texas people love it. But if the journey of going into those shops and be like, check out this company, and we make these generative things, and they're like, no, thank you. And then they're like, check out this hat, it comes with this generative thing, and they're like, no, thank you. And then you're just like, check out this hat, and they're all unique, and they're like, oh my god, that's awesome. What's that generative thing? It's like, oh, that's just a reminder of your artwork in case you lose the card. They're like, okay, cool, we want to carry it. So I know like it sounds kind of like I'm busy and I'm overwhelmed, but like you could tell me that all day long, but until I had that experience walking into like 15 stores and being told those words from people, it wouldn't have sunk in. And so it's just little pieces. Everything I do, every single thing that I do is meant to inform the future. And in a time when everything is dead, the only thing that we should be doing is trying to be as informed about what we can do to better contribute to that future, because we're not getting to contribute our time to sales or to like making something explosive again. And so the last 3 years, as things have slowed down in one way, when I thought I would be traveling less because less people are minting and slow down, it's like I've found ways to completely consume my time in exploring what it's going to be like for an average person in the world to collect and be excited about what we do, and some really hard lessons in there, but also some really, really exciting stuff.
And are you out there selling? Are you kind of hitting up stores and brands?
Yeah, every now and then. I mean, we set up these little there's like these like little markets that happen in Houston, and I'll go out there, and it's cool because no one knows who the hell I am or what the hell I do, and so you have real conversation with people. It's actually like, I used to do that when I was in the towel business. When I had my art practice early in the day, or like early days, like I had these like 3D printed lamps and these LED bracelets and shit, and like I would just go out into these local craft markets and set up a table and talk to people about my art and my shit, and like it was really rewarding. So yeah, I go out there. I'm not too proud to do anything, honestly.
How did you feel like a Clark Kent, like Superman kind of thing? Because in the space, on the internet, on the screen, you're like a celebrity, right? But then you go outside and like, who's this guy, Erick? You know what I mean? And just
living
this
in Houston,
double life.
Living in Houston is really, really great because of that. Because like nobody,
Didn't you have a museum celebrating you like a month ago?
That was the first time. That was the first people that ever celebrated. And since then, other museums are reaching out and like, hey, we need to talk. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. But I'll tell you this one story. I was a baseball. My kid was already not interested in playing baseball. He was already like over it. And we were at baseball practice, and like this dad walked up to me and he's like, hey man, I know who you are. Like my heart dropped, man, because I was like, I live this otherwise completely like normal life. And he's like, you're Snowfro, aren't you? And dude, like I turned bright red, and I like and we kind of stopped going back to baseball practice after that. Like it was like, I mean, that wasn't the main reason, but yeah, it's a relatively quiet life here in Houston. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
don't know how long. Yeah, Eric, not going to keep you forever. I feel
I've got another call at 5. This will be a fun day. I
Yeah.
started at 8 and went back to back. We'll see. See if
Oh,
I get
God,
a lunch break. No, but this is good. This is really good, guys. And oh shit, I forgot my Raphael Rosenthal drop again. Talk about gatekeeping. You know,
because I just never know when they are.
oh my god, they're still available. Hold on, sorry, I'm busy.
I'm gonna get one.
I just have to get.
I've been collecting black and white Raphaels for like the last couple of months, and I have like 7 or 8 of them. They're all, you know, like black and white ones.
I got one. So I have a full set of his work, and he texts me before his drop, and I like have calendar invites because I really want this whole set. And every now and then I'm on a plane or something, and I don't mint one, and people know that, and they try to gouge on secondary, and it's really annoying. But then this goes back to the very beginning of the conversation, you know, Jamie. Like, on the one hand, I'm like, dude, I have every one of your works. Will you just mint me one every time you have a new release? Like, you know, there's like 3 or 4 of us that are your best collectors. Like, take care of us. And he's even offered in some cases to do stuff like that, right? But like, my answer is no. Like, I mean, I'm really upset that I missed the last one. Like, I'm really pissed off about it because I had like 2 alarms to remind me, and he texted me, and I still missed it. And like, someone's like gouging it for like 2 times the mint price. But no, I feel like a good customer, but I don't deserve privilege. I do not deserve that privilege. Like everybody, because here's the problem. Sure, I deserve that privilege. There's 5 of us. He does drops of 30. What if there was 30? Well, now the whole collection is gone, so now nobody else gets it. Like it's just a slippery slope. Like, it's just a slippery slope that has not ended well in crypto, at least. And you know, you just kind of.
I think you deserve the privilege if it's offered, but you don't deserve it if it's not. You know.
Well, that too, but I think it's a slippery slope for him as well. You know, to do that, and you know, he does offer it to some, but I just feel like it's also part of the. I know everyone hates MetaMask and like wallets, but like there is a joy in this. Like there is a thrill. Do y'all not? I mean, if we've lost the thrill completely, you know, like I don't know, man. Like there's still, it's almost like the old Artblocks days. It's like, oh shit, like the mint's coming up. Like people used to set their alarms for like the next curated drops. Like that's as close to that thrill as I still have today. By golly, like I will, you know, suffer through not getting those mints so that, you know.
Yeah, I think we're exploring that slippery slope at Verse. I hate to say.
Across the board? But also, first of all, you're doing like very focused exhibition stuff, right? You have people coming into your gallery and like meeting in person and seeing it.
I mean, not really. No, I mean, like most releases we do are digital only.
Still, I don't know. I feel like most of the big, at least the ones that I see, the big ones are, you know, you guys are doing. The
Bosso and William Maffan were, yeah.
That was beautiful, by the way. Congrats.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, we're going to be exploring the idea of a kind of a system whereby Jay said on one of these podcasts a few months ago that he would quit the space if people started doing this, and so we need to get some kind of sign off before we do anything. But yeah, we're exploring a model whereby you can only get access if you've got a certain number of works from the gallery, which sounds horrible and awful, but is going to mean that there is potential upside in buying that I can't figure out how to give people otherwise.
From the gallery for $10, right? So like potentially, if it's a limit on how many works you have, like it should be, or does it have to be specific works? Because we've had people say it's like, oh, you have 100 Artblocks works, you can buy 100 Artblocks for us today for like $1,000, and it's like a membership pass.
I mean, it's all well and good selling something for $10, but you can only keep collecting if you're buying things that are at least worth what you're paying, ideally worth more than what you're paying. And I can't figure out how.
Wait, you mean you keep collecting, like you only want to stick around if things are worth more than what you paid for it?
So I don't flip things, but I'm also not rich. There is no way I can justify having such a crazily disproportionate amount of my wealth in NFTs if I'm not buying things that are at least holding value.
Within what time period? I mean, I think that's the thing that's so interesting. Like, have you, like, any art I've ever bought in my life prior to that, like, there was no way within a 1 year, 2 year, 5 year horizon I expected them to kind of have any upside. In fact, most things you buy at a gallery are going to go down in value immediately because no one wants to buy it new.
I think there's like a value thing though still, right? Like even if I don't expect to maybe even ever sell this, there's still some level of like, oh, well, this was 20% cheaper than other pieces in this collection. I got a value, or this is, there's still some level of like value collecting. I think that you can feel like I got a deal here, even though I'm not going to sell this ever, but I feel like I got a deal.
Totally. I don't have a time frame. I don't have a time frame in mind at all. But I mean, if first doesn't work out, I'm completely broke, and therefore I need to do as much as I possibly can to make sure that, like,
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but it sounds very much like, oh man, like, I bought Bitcoin at 20,000 and then it was worth 10,000, and so that was a terrible buy, and so like I'm not going to buy it
No,
again.
I'm not
Like, I mean,
saying
it's not like that level. It's like, this is a very liquid, very crazy space that changes every single day, and so there's so many people that would say that, they're like you said, I'm not rich, like I can't, but like a lot of people bought Bitcoin at $800 and watched it go down, or bought it at $2,000 and watched it go down to 800. But like, there's a nature to things that have long-term value that eventually, and if they're not going to have long-term value, and you won't, like, I'm not saying you ever only buy art for the value, but like, then you're going to make some decisions that are good and some of them that aren't. If you know how to make the right decision all the time, then, not even Warren Buffett can make those decisions. Like, it just feels like this.
I mean, I only buy things that I really, really, really want, but I can only really justify buying, like, I can still only really justify doing that if I think that, okay, this is at least safe-ish. And so if there are things that we can do to increase the chance of it being safe-ish, I think we should be doing those.
But is that artificial?
Yes.
Okay, I have to go, but I would say that. let me just say this.
End it right there.
Yeah, we should just have to go. I'm going to say this before I drop it. Thank you for your honesty, Jamie. I would say this: in my 8 years in crypto, not one thing. Now, granted, in the traditional art world, it's more artificial to do those things that you're talking about, and
it's artificial and real. Hybrid
is the approach, but in pure crypto, in pure this environment, nothing artificial has worked out. Not one thing. Not one thing.
Yeah.
Give me an example otherwise. It's like when Artie asked in the beginning, like, give me a membership pass that worked out. So that's all I'm saying. Like, token drops, coin drops, all these things. It's like, it's just like, so Jamie, I'm not your mentor here, but like, if you're, and don't include that on the video, and let's keep this 100% to ourselves, like, if you want, but like, if it's artificial, we got businesses to run and we got runway and shit's like tough, it doesn't generally play out well. And if artificial would have saved art blocks in the past, it might have killed it eventually, and we were very careful with that. So just,
I don't think artificial means not real. I'm sorry, I know we're out of time. This
what do you mean not real? Like, artificial as in like it's staged?
Well, I mean, most Gagosian artist markets are artificial, but it doesn't. But there is still real value, even though it has been created in an artificial way.
We need to carry this conversation, because I'm super curious about like how much you believe the future of the world will be the Gagosian model, and like how much it'll be like a new.
I'm not saying I want that to be the future, but I'm saying like that has been proven to work in a way that hasn't in this new world
in the past,
and it works for reasons that make total sense.
Sure,
and it's easy to see.
When a celebrity would buy a CryptoPunk and post it on Twitter and then like eventually do a drop, it also was proven to work for a really long time, but it was also proven long term. So one thing I'll say, I really am late now, is being first to doing it might be a good thing. So that's fine. And so you can and look, as a business owner, I totally empathize. We got to find ways to make money and like do things. We have big plans this year to help raise the value of the floor pieces of art blocks tremendously. So we're in the same boat, but that the membership. Look, you're talking to the wrong. I just fucking hate
this is
gatekeeping
fascinating.
so much, man. It's like deep in my blood. Okay, I'm late to my next call. I love you guys. Let's
promise you, we're doing this with collectors in mind. I would love. Sorry, I know.
No, and I'm sure you're going to do it very
I feel
elegantly,
like,
and I guarantee you're going to do it very like sophisticated and elegantly, and I encourage that. And I'm about to go buy a bunch of verse stuff just to make sure I get included.
Is there anything you'd want us
send
to
you a
cuss out?
deviate from my project that I created, if that's all right.
There you go. I want to hear more about it. Okay, there's really nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if when you listen to this and if you listen to it, will you let me know if anything kind of is a little spicier than you think?
Sounds good. This feels
Will do.
very safe by our standards.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All good.
All right.
Thank you so much, Eric. Great speaking.
Thank you.
Really good to see you.
Bye.
See you later.